رمضان أقبل يا صحاب فهللوا، الله أكبر والحمد للرحمن. أحمده حمد الشاكرين فإنه ما خاب من.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts all of our fasting and all the prayers and any voluntary acts of worship that we have done in this blessed month of Ramadan. Now, as we know that this blessed month of Ramadan, as soon as it comes, it will disappear and another year will be finished. So it is very important for us all, my dear brothers and sisters, to benefit from this month as much as we can. And the very last 10 days of Ramadan, which we are about to approach now, are extremely important. It is as though that the first 20 days were there to prepare us for those blessed 10 nights, in which it contains so many blessings. And it's these blessings, inshallah ta'ala, that I just want to remind ourselves about these special events that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed for us in this special season, that they don't pass us by. First and foremost, it is a voluntary act of our ibadah, stress special time. Why? Because that servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even the female servant, both male and female, are permitted to make i'tikaf, that they stay in the masjid and they do not leave the masjid for any reason. It is that they leave the dunya outside and they concentrate as much as they can on worshipping and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many brothers and sisters that I know that having spent a particular amount of time in the masjid, whether it be 10 days, and let it be known that if you cannot do the whole 10 days, then you can spend whatever time that you can. Let's say, for example, you can spend 5 days, or that you spend 3 days. And even some of the ulama, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon them all, they say that if you have an intention, you can spend one night in i'tikaf in the masjid. So you do whatever you can to spend time in the masjid, and that you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you allow this time to make a change in your life. And how many brothers and sisters that I know have spent this time and they have become different people. So when they're in the masjid, they don't leave for any reason. When they spend their 10 days, it is though that they have renewed their iman, renewed their faith, and become stronger Muslims at this by the time the Eid comes. So I would encourage all the brothers and sisters to spend the last 10 days or whatever time that they can in the masjid. Secondly, within these last 10 nights, that there is Laylatul Qadr. There is that night of Al-Qadr, a night of decree, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the Quran, in which the angels that they have and they take from the Lawh al-Mahfuz the decrees of all of the creation for the year coming. So on this particular night, An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us that there's a great reward in it. In fact, Allah Jalla wa Ala in the Quran named a surah over this particular night. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that this night of Al-Qadr is better than 1,000 months. That is close to 83 years. That is a lifetime's amount of ibadah, just on one night. So how could it be that the Muslim would be aware of this great reward and allow it to pass? So it is our utmost importance that we search for this night. What night is it? Is it the 27th night of Ramadan? Allahu bihi alim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only knows. But what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed us of is that we should try to search Laylatul Qadr in the odd nights of the month of Ramadan. So it could be the 21st, or the 23rd, or the 25th, 27th, even the 29th. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But the Muslim, they try their best, they strive and they struggle, and they ensure that every night, that as they have been doing the previous 20 nights, or as much as they can, praying Taraweeh, seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's reward, that they will pray Tahajjud, that they will pray the night prayer, staying with the Imam, and ensuring that they will finish with the Imam. Because An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam informed us in an authentic hadith that whoever prays with the Imam and finishes with the Imam, that he will have or she will have the reward of the whole night. So imagine now that you have prayed that Laylatul Qadr, and that you have prayed from the very beginning of the night to the very end of the night, how much reward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will write for you. This is a great opportunity for all of us to seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and His maghfirah, for us to make dua, for us to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on these special nights. Because they come once a year. And who knows that maybe we are not around next year. Maybe we are not, subhanAllah, how many brothers and sisters we knew that were with us last Ramadan. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken their souls and they are no longer with us. They do not have that opportunity to fast the days of Ramadan, to stand the nights of Taraweeh and Tahajjud, to look for Laylatul Qadr. So it is a great opportunity for us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us for another year that we can search for the night of Laylatul Qadr. This is another very important act of ibadah or special night that we should search for as Muslims in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. And there's two other issues that I want to mention as well that are extremely important for us to emphasize as well. We know that the Prophet ﷺ would wake up and stay awake the whole night. And in fact wake his family to stay awake in the last 10 nights of Ramadan to engage in ibadah, to engage in worship. Now maybe it is that we are unable to stand all those hours in prayer, standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what else can I do? Well, as I've been doing in the month of Ramadan, I will engage in the recitation of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Quran. As the Imam has been reciting every night, attempting possibly to finish the Quran within the month, I will do my own recitation. I will recite the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I will ponder over the meanings, the great meanings of these ayat. And coupled with the recitation of the Quran, because that is a form of dhikr. That's a form of remembrance. Also to make dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any which way that you can. And maybe you find that there are a number of sisters who are unable to engage in the prayer because of their particular cycle, the monthly cycle that they have. They cannot pray and that they cannot fast. This doesn't mean that they should feel left out. This doesn't mean that they should feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is depriving them of His mercy. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful to His servants in so many different ways. So the Muslim woman, she can make dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even though there is a difference of opinion, inshallah ta'ala, is permitted for her also to recite the Quran. So she can engage in dhikr, ad-du'a. And ad-du'a, as the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us, huwa al-ibadah. That supplicating and turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with an open heart, with love, hope and fear, is the very essence of our ibadah. It is the very essence of our worship. So these last 10 nights of Ramadan, these last 10 days of Ramadan is an opportunity for us to really gain a closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we didn't have before. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would even treat these last 10 nights, these last 10 days differently from the previous 20. As our mother Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would tighten his belt, in meaning that he would exercise more effort in struggling and ibadah, in acting upon the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, engaging as much dhikr and worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my dear brothers and sisters, this opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with, given us His mercy to worship Allah azza wa jalla in these blessed days and blessed nights, we should never let them pass. Do not let a day pass, do not let a night pass, except that you have engaged in acts of ibadah to the best of your ability. How many people, they start of Ramadan, they begin the month of Ramadan in a particular state, and when they reach Eid, they're a different person. It is quite possible that yes, maybe we have many sins, we have fallen into many things which are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but at the very end of the month you can become a different person. You can become a beacon of light for your family and for all of those around you. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept all of our efforts, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to continue the good work that we have been doing in this blessed month, that we are able to carry it out beyond the month of Ramadan, that we are in truly sincere servants to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I ask Allah azza wa jal that He allows us to see another Ramadan, that we can worship Him in a way that is pleasing to Him. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakum Allahu khayra wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
رمضان أقبل يا صحاب فهللوا الله أكبر والحمد للرحمن أحمده حمد الشاكرين فإنه ما خاب من يرجو عظيم الشان يا رب فاغفر للعباد جميعهم والصوم يعلي